Mr. Leo Saunders, Director at Integrity Forensic Solutions. Pleasure to have you here. We have a lot to discuss, and I think most important here is the financial state of the eThekwini municipality, a municipality that seemingly continues to bleed money, while on the other side, we have serious infrastructure challenges, we have service delivery issues, but yet we see traces of millions of rand leaving that entity. Your team has been involved in certain investigations relating to this. We know one of them, which is quite public, which is in relation to the corruption trial involving the former mayor, Zandile Gumede. So let's park that aside for a second. I want to start with talking about who you are and your company in relation to the kind of work that you do. So let's start there.
Thanks, Dasen. Well, IFS has been in existence since 2010. As you correctly introduced, I'm the director of IFS. We are a forensic audit and investigation practice. We also do litigation support, risk advisory, and intelligence work, among others. We were appointed by the eThekwini municipality to conduct forensic investigations into various matters, one of which is the DSW matter. It culminated into the criminal trial that is now widely publicized.
So that's one part of it. And I think there's a perception that while we can applaud the justice system for working and ensuring that this matter now ended up in the courts, it wouldn't be necessarily accurate to say that the corruption within the municipality has now been frozen in time and is limited to the 320 odd million that we are discussing in court. So I want to know, in essence, what has happened since that matter went to court, since those arrests? Why does that municipality continue to lose money?
Dasen, on talking about the corruption being frozen, I think you couldn't be further from the truth. The reason being, as you said, we find that outside of the DSW trial, while I don't want to go there, from the time of the arrest of the accused persons in the trial, I think somewhere in 2019, the first quarter of 2019, between then and now, we have evidence of more than 600 million being paid to entities that are statutorily linked to one of the co-accused of Zandile Gumede.
That would be Hlenga Sibisi.
Yes, the evidence suggests that these entities are linked to one accused named Hlenga Sibisi.
Now, that just boggles the mind. Even at a level of it being, whether it's an allegation or whether it's a paper trail that links all of this, just the concept of trying to understand how an accused in a matter can still be receiving business from a municipality, that really does baffle us. You don't need to be an expert to realize that that's wrong. Who is this person?
Firstly, before we go into who he is, let me just deal with the issue of you saying it's an allegation. It's beyond an allegation, Dasen, because the evidence at our disposal shows that from the financial ledgers of the municipality, entities that are linked to Mr. Sibisi have been paid this money while he's out on bail from 2019 to date. So it's not an allegation, it's a fact. We are in possession of the actual financial records and ledgers which show each payment on each date and in respect of which invoices and claims issued by entities linked to Mr. Sibisi. So the second part of your question, to deal with who he is, he's a person, according to our investigations, that sprang into prominence only from 2016 August. Before August 2016, he had not issued a single invoice to the eThekwini municipality. And from our background searches, the evidence suggests that he was predominantly dealing with Zulu dance instruction and nothing to do with entrepreneurial tenders within the eThekwini municipality space, at least. And it is only between 2016 up until the point that we then made the findings in the DSW matter that we found that he had come to prominence.
So I guess this would kind of venture into the trial. So, we'll park that bit there. I'm now interested in the movement of this money. Yes. You're talking about 600 million. This is $500 million. It's double the amount that forms part of the trial that we're talking about. How has all of this money moved to one individual really through these other entities that he is responsible for?
All right. The evidence that we have at hand shows this. When the DSW investigation concluded, we find from the evidence at our disposal that the entity that was implicated in the DSW case stopped doing business with the municipality. But 4 other entities, some of which trade from exactly the same address as the other entity that was implicated in the DSW matter, all of which are statutorily linked to the one accused, Mr. Sibisi, were then awarded various tenders or various orders, the evidence of which we have. And for us, we say it's alarming and concerning. Not only that, it appears to be unlawful when you consider what the legal and compliance framework says about what a city or municipality ought to do when they find that an accused person or when any person, a juristic entity or an individual, has compromised the SCM protocols.
That's a very important point, because at the time of your investigation, I would imagine that as part of the investigation and as part of the report that you compiled, you should have then advised the municipality, or I would have expected that you would have advised the municipality of action that could be taken to deal with this issue. Primarily is to, A, stop the flow of money, and secondly, to ensure that no other money, or rather money is recovered, the money that's been lost. So what then did you do at the time to ensure that that happened?
As at April 2021, that is more than 2 years ago, we were obliged legally, ethically, to inform the municipality of the course of action that they ought to have taken at the point where we were able to do so. So as at April, we informed the municipality of all the legal obligations that vested within the municipality to take remedial action. We gave them the supporting evidence and information to indicate who was implicated in wrongdoing in terms of the DSW tender, to what extent they were involved, and we also gave them all the prescripts which indicated what courses of action should be taken.
As among those, the SCM policy?
Yes, the SCM policy, including Treasury instruction notes, including the Municipal Finance Management Act and the Municipal Systems Act. In all that, in all those legal and compliance provisions, is an important provision which makes reference to blacklisting. Blacklisting entails stopping a service provider or preventing a service provider from doing work with the government or with state-owned entities or organs of state if that entity is found to have compromised the supply chain management protocols of a government entity, which is, among others, part of the findings in the DSW tender in respect of Mr. Sibisi and the companies that he used there.
It seems like a very rudimentary clause. I mean, I don't think that you necessarily have to be any type of financial expert to realize that you would need to stop doing business with a company or an individual that's accused. But yet you took the time to point this out from what you're saying to me and list this to the municipality. So what response did you get?
Well, Dasen, I received a written response from the erstwhile city manager, Mr. Sipho Cele, who indicated to me that he had considered our detailed and documented recommendations for remedial action, and that he had taken legal advice on them and was going to implement them. Like I said to you, the legal prescripts make it peremptory, so that means he didn't have the luxury of not taking the action. The law compels him to take the action, and if they fail to take the action, an accounting officer can be criminally charged. So what we were led to believe by the communications from the then city manager, Mr. Cele, was that he was going to take the necessary action that the law prescribed, the same laws that we outlined to him in our written recommendations.
But clearly that wasn't done, because now we are sitting here and you've said to me that there are entries, you've got all of the evidence, you have the data that's been captured, which shows this movement of money. Tell me about how serious is this? We see the total figure, but I mean, it's unlikely that this chunk of money was just given to this entity in one go. How have they been able to sneak this money out of the municipality? Maybe just give me a day or two of the transactions.
Dasen, it's to deal with the first part of the seriousness of it. It's atrociously serious, because the statement that this makes to the taxpayer and to the population of South Africa is that, irrespective of whether the law says that service providers and or individuals that compromise the public purse must be stopped from doing work with the state. The law says that. These payments then indicate, the seriousness of the payments indicate that the leadership in eThekwini don't have an appetite to uphold the rule of law, firstly. And in their lack of appetite to uphold the rule of law, then they're also not acting in the interest of the taxpayer and of the administration of eThekwini, because it cannot be that when you are compelled in law to stop what is characterized as irregular expenditure from occurring, and you wantonly continue to incur the irregular expenditure. That is a sorry state, because what it tells us in the industry is that the rule of law, insofar as eThekwini is concerned, has broken down.
But then that raises a bigger question, because even as the municipality, they also have a certain obligation to answer for the money that is being spent. So how has that not been picked up at a higher level?
It's impossible not to have been picked up at a higher level. I say it because of this reason. Firstly, constitutionally, if you look at Section 195 of the Constitution, it enjoins all state actors to act within the highest ethical norms and standards. And then if you look at several other statutes and provisions, whether it be the Municipal Finance Management Act, the Code of Conduct for public officials, and so on and so forth, it enjoins all of these treasury regulations and treasury instruction notes, enjoin the leadership as well as the employees of the municipality to conduct themselves in an ethical and in a legally compliant manner. When it comes to answer the second part of your question, when it comes to the leadership at the top level not being aware, all the statutory provisions which I'm referring to place a responsibility on the accounting officer. And that is why I wrote my recommendation of remedial action to the then accounting officer, Mr. Cele. If you look at the dates within which the payments were made, you can then work back who was the accounting officer throughout these periods. But suffice to say, that accounting officer legally is obliged to prevent within his sphere of control irregular expenditure. That responsibility that is constitutionally vested upon him is also delegated to the chief financial officer, and is equally then visited upon your executive committee and other role players within the municipality, like your exco, like your mayors and other participants. And then equally, by virtue of delegations, you have your junior employees that equally must prevent this type of thing. Now, to cut it short, payments of more than 600 million cannot leave a municipality without the CFO and the accounting officer and or your exco knowing that those payments are going out. It's just not possible, because those role players are signatories in either the award processes of major tenders, your exco as well as your city managers, and then your CFO will be involved in the release of payment in respect of those capital and major projects, of which this appears. You can't spend 600 million in a space of 2 years if it's not related to something major.
And this is it. I just want to look at that 600 million. So the bulk of it was between 2019 and 2023. But what catches my interest is the period between this year, probably the past 2 months or about 2 months in this year. And I believe it's about 90 million that moved during that period. How did that money move so quickly?
Look, the evidence shows that on some occasions in one day, 35 million rand, like for example on the 28th of April, we're leading up to the trial of the DSW's matter. So I must draw sort of a comparison between the two. We're closer to the DSW trial, and then on the 28th of May, more than 35 million rand goes to the service provider in one day, made up of 3 payments. Further to that, we look at the 12th of June, which is as recent as less than a month ago. And substantial payments of more than 40 million then go through to the service provider in that period. So in the couple of months leading up to where we are now, which is on the eve of the trial, almost more than 90 million in the recent past has already gone to the service provider.
So where's the breakdown, Mr. Saunders? I mean, surely something's gone wrong here within the municipality. I think the easy answer would be to say that there's no will to deal with the issue. But if you look at it and you look at the mechanisms that are in place, where do you find the breakdown?
The law is sufficient. The policies and prescripts are sufficient to guide from your political oversight through to your administrative oversight to deal with the matter in a compliant manner. So the first part is correct. People are running the administration and the finance, which is from your political leadership to your administrative leadership, your mayor, your city manager, your CFO, and the like. They choose whether to comply with the law or not. So the only conclusion to be arrived at is that choices have been made by people who have been entrusted with power and decision making not to comply with the rules that would entail that these service providers should be blacklisted and that these monies should not be paid to a person who's out on bail standing trial for racketeering.
And I think the bigger implication here, well, there are a number of them, but one of them is that this money for this work that should have been provided or is provided could have been given to other more deserving companies that could have fairly tendered for this kind of work. And secondly, the question is whether the services are actually being delivered. So there's that compromise. But with that aside, you've compiled all of this evidence. You have all of the evidence at your disposal. I understand you've also written to the public protector.
That's correct.
So to what end?
Look, I've written to the public protector as an exercise of last resort, because we've been sitting and sort of following the events in real time almost, wherein we've been seeing that this service provider has been continuously being awarded tenders, notwithstanding him being out on bail. And in us seeing that, in engaging with the city and the leadership of the city in an attempt to sort of bring this to their attention and implore them to stop it, since that was not being done, we then thought we have to then involve the Chapter 9 institutions, among others, the Office of the Public Protector.
Mm. Let me ask you this directly. You've put a lot of work into this, and you clearly have followed the money. From all of the indications that you have now, based on the knowledge that you have, would it be fair to say that the control of the municipality's coffers doesn't necessarily rest within the municipality?
I couldn't agree with you more, Dasen. If you follow the fact that the municipality have been taking loans in the recent past, I think I recently learned that in the last financial year, I think they were making application, it became public knowledge, taking loans of around almost 1 billion or 2 billion. And if you look at what we're dealing with here, you have a service provider who is out on bail for racketeering and corruption and fraud. And that service provider is a beneficiary of almost 40% of what the city took loans for. That stands to reason that there's no money or insufficient money to even budget for the type of projects that the service provider is being appointed to perform.
What kind of work is it anyway?
Dasen, it's ridiculous. When you look at the list of ledgers we have in front of us, the creativity of the work that's given to this guy is questionable. some of the work that's given to him is for water projects, some of it is for housing, so it's across the spectrum, which suggests that this person is such a specialist in the construction, operational, water-related and reticulation services. It's uncanny to find a person or an entity that emanates from nowhere and then has all these expertise to the exclusion, a dance instructor, to the exclusion of other reputable broad-based black firms that have the expertise to render this service. Because in essence, what we're saying then is if this service provider can be rewarded with more than R1 billion worth of awards from 2016 to date, then we're saying that this service provider is exemplary in terms of their delivery and in terms of their skill. But with that kind of spend.
But even then, it still is unfair practice.
It's highly
as exemplary as the service provider could be.
I'm not suggesting that I was being sarcastic when saying that. I'm not suggesting he's exemplary, because I was going to say, if you spend R1 billion from 2016 to date on a service provider, that service provider, that is normally done to established, well-known entities that one would be able to see a perceivable track record. We don't have the same for this service provider.
Let's just end on this note. Beyond the public protector, it would be safe to say then that law enforcement is also fully aware of the details of what we've discussed, the movement of these monies. For example, this particular individual and entity that is benefiting from the municipality. What then is the delay that's now gotten you to a point where, there are agencies that are assigned to deal with these matters. Why does it have to come down to the public protector?
Let me answer it this way, Dasen. I can't really speak for, and I don't want to venture into speaking for the law enforcement agencies. Safe to say that what has been done here is unlawful. It's a crime. It should be investigated by an agency of the state, because to embark on irregular expenditure, as I said to you earlier, in terms of the MFMA, wantonly, intentionally, is an offense. So law enforcement should look at that. But not only that, law enforcement should also be looking at how is it possible? Is there not a deeper motive behind the irregular expenditure to show that now there's a clear conspiracy for these service providers to commit the same offense while out on bail, circumventing the SAM protocols of the municipality, just because they can and just because they have political relationships.
Okay, you know what? There's still a lot more to discuss in relation to the witnesses in this particular case. And I think we need to touch on that in a short while. Thank you so much for discussing this part of the corruption at the municipality. Yes. We'll pick it up with a conversation about what's happening with those witnesses.
Thank you, Dasen.
Thank you.